Hey everyone, it's Matt, aka Tech Ranger, and today we're going to be taking a look at Coven of Crones. This is a paid quest mod for Skyrim on the Xbox and PC. So in this video, I wanted to go over my experience with it, what you're going to be doing, some of the new things in it, as well as the pros and cons from my perspective. So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like down below, comment down below if you all have any questions. But with that, let's see what Coven of Crones is all about and seeing if it's worth your purchase. The Coven of Crones is a quest mod for Skyrim for Xbox and PC. It's 500 credits, which equates to about $5, which is nice because that's easy to do rather than having to spend more money in order just to get this one. The mod is around 458 megs on Xbox, but with any big mod, you always want to make sure you have a little bit more than that, so when it downloads and unpacks, it doesn't tell you that you don't have enough space. What you get is pretty much a whole new area, and the description says it's similar in size to Solstheim from the Dawnguard expansion, and here's a comparison just so you can see the two. Not quite as big as Solstheim from the Dawnguard expansion, but it is comparable. A lot of this will be filled once you actually play through the mod because there will be POIs or places of interest that will actually fill out the map, and that can range from some side quests to just some unique locations. Here's what that looks like after I've completed most of the mod. Once you purchase and install this one, to start it, you just start from Riverwood, turn around and go backwards into this forest here, and you're going to find someone called Anise. If you haven't already ran into her, then that's good, but if you have, just hopefully you haven't actually taken her out yet, because that would basically mean that you can't start the quest. Because slaying her at the end of this mod will be what you're doing. That'd be kind of hard if she's not there. Basically head into her hut and then go down to the cellar, and you're going to see a note there on one of the desks. This will give you a heads up that Anise is up to no good, and then when you attack her, you'll find out that she's got a little bit of a secret. This is what's going to set you on your merry way as far as the quest goes. So when you head back down to that cellar, that door that was there, you're going to be able to go in, do a little ritual, and then you will be transported to the new land that is a part of this DLC, the Blighted Marsh. There are some custom weathers and sounds that come along with this mod. Just so you guys know, if you've seen any of the Skyrim mod series here on the channel, you'll notice from my last load order video that with this mod included, I had some ghost space and couldn't actually install this one, so I had to modify it slightly, but everything seemed to work. If you all be interested in seeing an updated version of the load order, let me know in the comments. Wouldn't be anything crazy different than the last one, but wanted to mention it. Or if you're watching my channel for the first time and you're like, whoa, why does your game look like that? So once you get rolling, you will find Anise again in the first passage that you go through, and you'll be introduced to some new enemies that come along with this expansion. The first of what you'll see is the bog spawns. You can start this mod in a new playthrough once you get to Anise. However, I actually loaded it up on my Matthias save, which has had hundreds of hours into it. If you do have an over-leveled character with some really good loot like armor and weapons, you'll probably be fine. I think there's enough challenge just in terms of managing multiple opponents when you're actually fighting. You will be able to unlock some cool summons as well as some abilities that you can use, so if you are going into this fresh on a new playthrough, you will have some newer things to acquire. But would also be fun on a higher level character. On my main character, I did take a lot of hits, but I was able to take those hits. It just got a little crazy when there were a lot of things going on screen at once. That's when I had to start popping potions. In order to get to that point where you have to slay Anise herself, you do have to take out a couple of her, well, cronies. On that journey, you're going to see a lot of new dungeons, an interesting cast of characters, as well as some new spells and weapons. And along with a few enemy types as well, you're also going to encounter some random bosses in the world. This one acted like a giant, for example, but some of the newer attacks just looked cool. The other ones that I found were kind of reskins or just like larger versions of what you've been fighting already. And when you're fighting this one, make sure to pick up this skull. You're going to want it. There's also brand new voices for all the newer characters in this mod.
The air still flowing through your lungs is evidence enough of a kindness I shall not grant a second time.
Disguised as an elder mage, would uncover the path to this place.
Help me into this grave well.
It's very well done, and as someone who has played a few of the quest mods for Skyrim that are free, you do notice a little bit of a change in the way some of the voice acting is, just because, you know, things are recorded in one spot or another. This all seems really good, and if it wasn't all recorded in one spot, it definitely sounds like it. Oh, and I touched on some of the enemies that you're going to face in this mod, but one of the other things is bring a bow. I'm not really a big fan of spiders in video games, or just in general, really. So if I can make them stop moving as fast as possible in a video game without them even getting near me, then that's what I'm going to do. I did find the Arcane Archer pack pretty useful in this mod, so if you have that from the Creation Club, that will help, but not necessary. The boss fights, actually fighting the sisters leading up to Anise, are actually pretty cool. A little bit different than your standard boss fights maybe in the original game. Nothing too crazy, but there's some cool surprises, some cool uses of effects in Creation Kit that kind of shows off the mod author's ability to actually create one of these mods and make it well. That, combined with enough side content to keep you busy, makes it feel like a little bit more than a mini DLC. More on that in this next section, where I'm going to go over the pros and cons of this one and whether or not I think it's worth it to purchase. So in this section, I'm going to talk about what I liked and didn't like about this paid creation. I'm going to try my best not to show any footage that will spoil any of the surprises, because there are some in this mod which are pretty cool to experience for yourself. And I did want to touch on one of the rewards for completing the main quest at the end, just because it factors into my overall opinion of a paid creation like this. The first thing I really enjoyed about Coven of Crones is the environment that you're in. It's a brand new area. It is pretty large in size. There's some cool situations and areas to look at, but then also some things to discover. Some of which isn't tied to particular quests, but is just kind of funny. I ended up going in with a character that has over 300 hours of playtime on it with mods, so I was curious to know how this would actually fare, and I didn't have any issues. As mentioned earlier, while my character was a little overpowered, I didn't have any trouble actually finding things to do. I fought through most enemies pretty quick, but then there'd be the occasional boss fight that would have provided a little bit more of a challenge for my character, which I appreciated. I probably spent the main chunk of my time doing a lot of the side stuff in this one, and I did a lot of that mostly after the main quest. So for example, there's like the lost souls that you learn of from the Grove Keeper, or if you just run across them in your travels. And these are all voiced characters, so these were new lines that were recorded for these specific characters, along with the main characters like the Grove Keeper. All really good, a big pro from me. It just immerses you in this new land a little bit more, rather than hearing some of the same voice actors in the main game over and over again, just in different characters. There's also a lot of books, notes, and things that you can read that give you a little bit more info about what's going on with Anise and the dire situation that everyone's in on the island. It's good stuff, and I'd recommend reading all of it. And overall, this thing took me probably around 4 to 5 hours, maybe a little bit more if you take your time, maybe a little bit less if you just beeline the main quest, for example. Now this is a little bit of a spoilery part, so just FYI, if you don't want to know anything about the ending of this one, I am going to spoil the last thing that you get. And that final reward is a new player home. And it is a lot of space, especially if you're someone like my character. You probably have all the money in Skyrim and you don't really sell anything anymore, you just collect things. This reward, along with some of the new summons, spells, and weapons that you might find, that actually rolls into one of the first cons that I have with this mod, and that is, if you buy this, it's fun, it's cool, you get some cool items, you'll be able to spend a decent amount of time with it, but this means that you always have to have this in your loader. Something around 500 megabytes is kind of a tough pill to swallow when we only have 5 gigs on console, for example. Maybe not so much on PC, but you're always going to have this in your list if you want to access the player home or some of the summons or other things that you can get in this mod. Other than to actually replay the mod on a new character, there's really not a lot of incentive to go back to the Blighted Marsh, because the area is not that big to where you're going to be exploring it for too long after that 4 to 5 hours. But I think with those pros and cons in mind, I still think it's worth purchasing for the price. $5 I think is pretty reasonable, given the time that you can put into this one and some of the new things that you can discover and earn. It's just going to depend on whether or not you want to fork out the money for this, or if it's something you can justify having in your loader when there's something else that could probably go in that space. And that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful for you, especially if you've seen this one on the creations page and you're wondering what it was all about. There's just like a few trailers out as well as some gameplay videos, so I just wanted to do something that was an overview rather than actually showing you everything that's in it, to at least leave you with some surprises if you end up purchasing it. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more reviews like this for some of the other paid mods, because I'd be happy to check them out. I know buying mods isn't everybody's cup of tea, but if it's done well and you can actually see what all you'll be doing, I think it's worth at least checking out. A lot of the rewards in this mod are free in other mods, so you're going to have to like what's included in this mod before you make the purchase. And that generally goes with most things. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for sticking around for this little bit longer video. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.